Just breathe. Everyone go out. We're going to do something. We're going to change it and then hope for the best. Okay, I want this chair because this is the style that's out now. You're always going to be constantly changing and changing and changing and changing.
Brutalism or mid-century, traditional again.
It's good for us because obviously we would always make money, isn't it?
It's going to be a roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of different things, but trust me.
And interior design is not just about making their space look beautiful. It's about making that space work for them. Must be exciting, you're interior designer. You know, it's so fun.
Thank you, Sabrina, for coming to the Designer Spotlight. It's really nice to meet you. Maybe I would hand over to you to do a little bit of the intro. Like, how did you come to the interior design? What do you do? And maybe a little bit of the experience that you've had.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me as well to come today. And so kind of just going back to the beginning of how I got into interior design, actually, from when I was like really young, like a child. Like I had my own bedroom, so I would like change the room around. I would, really be creative with my space. Like, and then that kind of sparked the passion to like, design and put things together and make things, feel homely. Yeah, so it really started from there. And then from there, I kind of looked into the industry to find out what it was. Because at the time, I didn't really know that interior design actually existed. I just thought it was a nice hobby, something fun for me to do, because I was quite a creative person. And then looked into it and then eventually went to college, went to university, got my degree, and that's basically how it began. So, yeah.
How long have you been like a part of like the whole industry?
So when did I graduate? I graduated in 2016. I did have a bit of a gap year because I had my son, and then eventually I got into it 2016, graduated, and then got a job. So, gosh, how long was that now? 16.
Well,
probably.
Close to 10 years.
Yeah, exactly. Close to 10 years now. So, yeah.
Oh my God. So it's been like quite a smooth ride. Like you kind of like set the whole thing from.
Yeah, I mean, the plan was to go to college, go to university, get a job and so forth. It didn't quite work like that because I had my son and then obviously taking care of a child and everything like that kind of, it took me out of it a bit. So I think for about 4 years or so, like obviously I was mainly taking care of my son. And then eventually, I got into the industry.
From what I learned, like you started in also like designing for property developers. How did that kind of like, and then opening your own studio, how did that transition happen? Like in terms of...
So my first actual job, actually, they were a property developer. So they were doing a big project on the Bishop's Avenue, which was really nice. So that was kind of like my first door into the industry as a junior interior designer. So I was working with them for probably about a year and a half. So obviously I gained experience. I learned more about the industry, what it was like to really be an interior designer. And then from there, I kind of had a colleague that I knew elsewhere, and they had some projects as well that not projects, but properties basically. And they asked me to come in and if I could come to help them to do up those properties that they had. They're actually like an estate agent. So they had like loads of properties on the market. And then it was kind of like something I was doing on the side. So it was like my side hustle, if you know what I mean. Okay. And then eventually was like, okay, maybe I can do this as a business. Like I can do it for myself. And yeah, that's how it started.
Wow.
Yeah.
How do you think, like, what are the biggest differences between of like actually designing the huge buildings and residential spaces for a developer versus now, as I understand, you're doing a little bit more residential, more like changing the homes.
And, I think the difference is obviously when you're working for someone who's a property developer or an agent or whatever, everything is kind of just like very basic, very clean cut, if you know what I mean. You can't really put too much personality in it because obviously it's just, they're developers in it. So really they're going to either rent or sell that property. So you can't really do too much to it. You can't really add that personality or that personal touch to it. It kind of just has to be, basic. Well, that was the projects that I did basically at that moment in time. But that's what they wanted. Everything for them is about saving money, isn't it? So everything is kind of like, very basic. So, yeah.
It's interesting. Are there like any kind of also differences? Like, do the properties are being sold here in London, like basically are boxes, or do they usually put in some of the touches in terms of like actually like finishes and some maybe appliances initially or something that people can move in and just kind of actually live in it?
Yeah. So some of the projects that I actually done were like they call them turnkey projects. So basically it means that you fit it out with everything. So they got the bed, the bedding, they got plates, cutlery, everything.
Wow.
So pretty much you could just move in and just,
Oh, wow.
you just bring your clothes with you. But some of them, they just sell them as is. So it would just be very basic, like just a bed. Some of them will just be like empty. So it's just the shell, but it just depends on what the landlord at that time wants. So the projects that I worked on were more short let properties. So it was always like a turnkey solution. So you would specify everything from the, beds to the sofas to the plates and the cutlery, appliances, everything. You'll do everything. So yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So it was fun,
Yeah.
But you just, like I said, you just can't add that personal touch because it's not for a particular person. It's just it's more commercial. So yeah.
In England, there is very specific style as well that usually kind of like follows.
Yeah.
Through the different,
Exactly.
very distinct as well.
Yeah.
I think all parts of the world have their own distinct style. I maybe like in 10 years being in London now, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is an English townhouse or this is something.
Yeah, exactly.
So you can actually like distinguish as well.
Wow. Exactly. So yeah.
Wow. How do you like then in the transition to your own design studio? A lot of people, they probably dream about it, but they're too afraid.
Yeah.
What was your kind of like this drive?
You mean to like start my own studio? I think I've always had it inside of me to kind of, I don't know, just go out on my own and kind of do something for myself. I think the moment that I started working for a company and I started working on projects, I think it just comes to you. For some people, I'll rather work for a studio, and for others, it will be like myself. I want to go out on my own and create my own studio. And I guess obviously because every studio has their own personality, they have their own culture, they have their own style. So they have a particular way of doing things. And so for myself as well, like I have a particular way of doing things. I know how I want my clients to make them feel and being able to have that one-to-one conversation with them and so forth and, be with them. Do you know what I mean? But when you're working in a studio, sometimes you got the lead designer, you got maybe the middleweight designer. And then obviously as someone who's starting out, you kind of don't really get to see all of that. You mainly just stay at the computer and you're just doing the work, but you don't really get to sometimes see the client or maybe sometimes even be on site as much. So I think the more you grow in a studio, you get to see more. And I think for me, I kind of didn't want to just be at the junior stage. I kind of wanted to be there. I wanted to be up close and personal. I wanted to be on site. I wanted to speak with the clients and, go out on shopping days with them and go and look at fabrics and materials and I wanted it to be more like a personal service. So I'd rather be with the client rather than just behind the computer on a desk or whatever and just doing the work. So yeah.
When people open their home for like others to change something around, it's so personal. And it's
definitely
probably very important to have that connection as well
then. Yeah, definitely. And I think that's why it's good to have those moments to get to know your client and find out what their likes, their dislikes are. Something that we do as well, like we'll do like a questionnaire. So when we have the initial like discovery call, as you call it, a discovery call to discover more about your client, then it kind of gives you the brief to the design. So then obviously from the conversation that you've had, then you go away, you do your research based off of that information, and then you come back with a concept, so an idea. So let's say, for example, they have children or they have pets, and so forth. So they want it to be child friendly. They want it to be pet friendly. So the kind of ideas that you're going to come with, you're going to do things that are going to be child friendly and pet friendly, not something that is going to be too clinical or something that's going to be harmful for children or pets or whatever. So the certain fabrics or paints or furnishings that you choose is going to work and is going to be functional for their needs. Yeah, so it has to make sense. So if you don't have that conversation with your clients, then you wouldn't know what they need. And interior design is not just about making their space look beautiful. It's about making that space work for them and their lifestyle. So obviously, yes, if they have kids, yes, if they have pets, yes, if they're just a young couple and they love to, I don't know, like do gym, or they like to unwind and Netflix and chill. Maybe they want a cinema room, maybe they want a small gym area, maybe they want a small office. So you make that space feel like their little haven. So when they come back from outside, they can unwind, they can relax. Like, you know, that's your space, like your sanctuary. So yeah.
Everyone has their own habits as well. So whenever it kind of like happens.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So for me, I'm like, when I get home, I like to switch off the main lights, got my table lamps and floor lamps and put them on to have that mood lighting, and just because I just want to come back and just relax. I don't want to come back and it's like, okay, I got to do this, I got to do that. I want to, yeah. So everyone has their routines and so forth. So when they come into their space, they kind of just want to just breathe, just relax after a hard day's work, a long day at the office, outside, running up and down all over the place. Like, you know, you come back, you just want to chill out, you know.
Oh yeah,
So
especially like
yeah,
a busy city like the London,
yeah,
where everyone is running around constantly.
exactly.
You're just like, okay, can I just chill out?
Yeah,
a little bit?
exactly. So yeah.
Oh wow, because you mentioned like the personal touch, and now you've kind of developed your probably over the years developed your own personal signature as well. How would you describe it in like 3 words? How
Okay.
like, what would be?
If I was to narrow it down in terms of like my style, I would say transitional. Transitional is basically traditional, modern merged together. So it's a bit of traditional and a bit of modern. So for example, maybe traditional features like moldings and, you know, like moldings on the wall, so wall paneling and all those kind of things, cornices and so forth. And then you add the modern touch with like, you know, maybe your furnishings or fabrics or whatever. So that's one of them, transitional. I would say edgy. And I think that's just my own personal style. Like I'm a bit edgy, especially as well, like in maybe my fashion sense in the way that I dress. Like it kind of comes out as well, like in my interior. So I like that one-off kind of like edgy piece, that thing that just looks, maybe it stands out. It's like a, standout piece basically. So it's just like has that edge. It might not blend with everything, but it just, you know, it's like a feature. Basically. Yeah. And then the other thing was, I would say calm. I like to create spaces that are calm when someone comes back home or comes into their space. It's for them to relax and just to, you know, feel at home and so forth, like, and not, you know, because we spend many hours like doing a lot of work and so forth. So when you do come into your space, you kind of just want to unwind. So yeah, so transitional, calm and edgy. Yeah.
Wow. Some would think that edgy and calm would like clash, but I totally understand when you're saying like, a standout, something very specific thing.
Yeah, something like a personality piece, something that brings out your personality. So I would say my personality can be a bit edgy. So maybe in my dress sense, certain things that I might wear, it will just have that edge. So it's not just too plain or too boring or too simple, but you've got that statement piece. Yeah. So
now that all the styles and the fashion and interior design, they evolve so fast that it feels like some of the stuff like will be in 1 year, and the next year there's gonna be brutalism or mid-century or all the other things, or traditional again, and it's kind of like what I see, that it kind of comes to the point where everything is in at the same time.
Yeah.
But that sense, like, how do you make sure that people actually, like, whenever you design their spaces, then that it will be for them, or like not, like, what are the most important like tricks or like something that withstand that time?
I think when you are designing a space, like for me personally, like I don't really like to follow trends. Yeah. But obviously, if there is something that you like in a particular trend, because some people like particular styles. So, for example, if you like mid-century, that is your style, that is your personality. That's going to be timeless for you because you love that style anyway.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if it's in or if it's out. That piece is going to be your personal piece. Do you know what I mean? So I think with anything, like as long as you're choosing something that you love and it works for you and it's functional for you and it makes sense, then it's going to stand the test of time anyway. But if you're just wanting pieces that are just, okay, I want this chair because this is the style that's out now, you're always going to be constantly changing and changing and changing and changing. Well, it's good for us because obviously we would always make money, isn't it? Because you would always want to use our services.
Yeah.
But just make sure that whatever you're choosing, it is your personality. And I know things you sometimes we do change our style, you know, but it's not as fast as how the trends change.
Yeah.
Like in one year you got this that's quite popular, in another year is something else, or maybe in a few months it's another thing and it's another thing, and you can't constantly keep on purchasing new stuff. But potentially you could do that, for example, with accessories, cushions, things that you can easily change. Maybe you can just get a new cushion cover or add a, you know, accessory or something that you may like in that particular trend, and you can use it. Put it away when you don't need it anymore, bring it out when you do, when it comes out again. Like, so yeah. Just be creative.
Whenever I see those beautiful shelves and like bookcases and things like that, first thing comes to my mind, I'm like, oh my God, who's going to clean all of this?
Yeah.
This is kind of like that kind of brings us back to the functionality of
exactly.
it, actually.
Yeah.
Like dusting all of this and everything else. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah, exactly. And I think sometimes that's what people don't understand. Like sometimes they might see something out there and be like, oh, I like this. This is nice. But then it doesn't work for them because you got to always clean it, or maybe it's getting in the way, or it just doesn't work. So it looks nice. It looks good in somebody else's house, and maybe it works for them because they have the time to clean it or whatever. But it's not for everybody. So yeah, do the things that work for you, or have things that work for you and are functional for you.
How do you bring out that, like, that makes them discover? Like, do they go through the journey? Because, like, probably a lot of people are also using the services for the first time, and they don't go through the process very often, like maybe like property developers.
Exactly.
And how does it usually kind of work? And how would you prep a person to kind of like, okay, we're going to go on a long journey. This is going to be a roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
There are going to be a lot of different things, but trust me, like what is your approach to this?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it always goes back to that first conversation. So that first discovery call when you speak to the client, it's in that moment that you kind of build your rapport with them, right? So then when you're asking them questions, it's like going on a date, right? In a way, because you're getting to know the person. So when I ask questions, it's for me to make my job easier. So I'm not going to look for things or specify things that the client doesn't like. So if the client has told me I hate blue, then that's one thing that I'm not going to maybe look at. I'm going to look at the things that they do like. So one thing for me is, obviously when you do have a client, you kind of have to build that trust so that they can become, you know, comfortable with you. And how do you build trust? You take them on that journey with you. Just like you said, you go with them every step of the way. So usually when I do start a project, we'll start off with a concept design, so an idea. So based off of the conversation that we've had, I'll go away. I'll put together like a series of like pictures, materials, everything, and I'll put it together on a board, and I'll then set up another meeting with them and do like a mini presentation to show them, okay, so based off of our brief, you know, this is what I've come up with. Is this the right direction? Okay. Are you happy with this? And so you're going with them every step of the way. It's a collaborative industry. It's not just that I go away and design everything and then come back and go, ta-da. You know what I mean? Like in some, like for example, I don't know if you've ever watched things like Changing Rooms, which is,
when they
you know,
ship their people out.
Yeah, everyone go out. We're going to do something. We're going to change it and then hope for the best. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? But for us, it's kind of like, it's a journey that you just go step by step. So you got the concept development. Then after the concept, if they're happy with that, then you go each space and you create, you know, those spaces like through those drawings and imagery and fabrics and materials and so forth. And then you move on to design development, which you're now developing the design and making it actually, you know, tangible so you can touch things. So this is where you'll look at samples, and you can go out on a day with them to like shops and stores and look at kitchens and bathrooms, see what they're like, see what they're drawn to. Then you put that together in a presentation board as well. And then, you know, then we use things like softwares that we use like AutoCAD, and some people use 3D softwares as well, so you can see what that could look like in your space. You're making them feel comfortable, that you're not just going away and designing something that you like and then you're just giving it to them. No, but you're working together with them. And yeah,
Working in residential was like extremely compared to like the residentials. And what are the biggest differences that you're kind of like seeing in that?
I think obviously with property developers, it's more quick because everything is like a fast turnaround, isn't it? So the timelines are a bit more quick. They want things that are kind of like off the shelf. We want it tomorrow, everything done. Because for them, it's about profit. So they want to make money from their, you know, properties and so forth. So everything is like a quick turnaround. Whereas when you're working on someone's home or space, it can take a bit of time, you know, to get there. There's might be specific things that they might want that you can't buy in the shop, maybe bespoke items that need to be made. Sometimes these items can take 12 weeks. 18 weeks, like some bespoke sofas and maybe flooring or, you know, wall coverings that need to be handmade and so forth, and they take time. So it just depends on the client and what they want and how bespoke their project is. If their project is a mixture of bespoke and, you know, maybe like things that they can get immediately, then the timeline will be shorter. But obviously if everything is completely bespoke, that special client that just wants everything, I don't want nothing the same as what anybody else has, and everything needs to be made, then those projects can take a long time.
Wow.
So
does it happen often?
No.
But has it happened?
But it's happened, but it's not often.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh wow, it's so
it can
fascinating as well, because like would never think that somebody's gonna be like, okay, drawing you and designing you some furniture and things like this.
Yeah, it can be a long process, but it's rare. I mean, for my clients anyway, I haven't come across that client often. So probably like in a blue moon, once in a blue moon, which is good for me anyway. I mean, it is nice to do bespoke projects, but sometimes they can take long and it could become tiresome, and then, yeah.
What are the like 3 things that you wish that people would know when they start working with interior designers beforehand?
I think for some people, they have a misconception that interior designers just magic things up. Sometimes they don't understand the value that an interior designer brings to the table. Sometimes they just think, oh, but you just go and just choose bits of furniture and then you just put it together, like, or bits of, you know, wall coverings and flooring, and you just put it together and you can just do it at a click of a finger. Like you can just magic it up, but it doesn't work like that. There's a process, and we have to go away and we have to research and we have to look into things. So it's not just, oh, we're just going into a shop and like picking things out, like what you do when you go to Tesco's and you just find items on the shelf and go, oh, okay, yeah, that's nice, and go and purchase it. Actually, there's a whole process behind it. And I think when a client doesn't understand the value that an interior designer brings, then they may not understand maybe our pricing. They might think, oh, you're too expensive or you're overpriced, because they don't understand that actually as an interior designer, we're saving you time. We're saving you effort for you. Instead of you looking around and, you know, putting your house together, someone else is doing that for you. You don't have to spend hours on end looking at things, you know, going to shops and so forth. You've got someone that's doing that for you. So we bring value. We save time, and we're the creative mind, isn't it? So we're able to make that space that you have cohesive, but also functional. and, just works for your lifestyle.
Do you also like kind of, as part of your projects, do you do structural things as well in terms of like the building and the structure of the building and understanding how the things are kind of positioned?
We do in terms of like spatial layouts of spaces, of the space. But in terms of like structural things, you have an understanding of it, but that's more on the architectural side. So the architectural sides are more structural, whereas interior designers are more, we know where things, like we have an idea of where things should be placed that makes sense. So, okay, the light switches or the sockets should be here in this position because this is where the bed's going to go. The bath should be here or the toilet should be there. We understand spatial layout. Structure, would be more on the architectural side. We're just kind of like the finishing details. So choosing like, the wall coverings and the flooring and, yes, we will choose things like light switches and stuff like that. Maybe the finishes of those, like, is it a brass? Is it a stainless steel? The light fixtures. So we're more on the prettier side rather than the structural side. But but you always have an understanding because that's what we learn.
So interesting how, especially busy places like restaurants, how things need to be on point.
Yes, exactly, definitely.
And so, like the level of like the execution and this kind of like functionality is just like the top priority of all of it.
It needs to make sense. Same with like, obviously like a restaurant where there needs to be flow. You need to think about things. You need to know like, okay, in a restaurant, you need everything to be accessible for everybody. It can't just be like, oh, it's just for one type of person. Like it has to be accessible for everyone. So if there's someone in a wheelchair, your doors need to be wide enough. You need to have a toilet available for them to be able to fit, the walkways, there needs to be space for people to flow and move around, and also how you get people to move around those spaces. Like, so when they come into the door, into the restaurant, you have a reception. So there's a meet and greet, and then, okay, we'll take you to your table, and then you got a quiet zone, and then you got the, the other zone where people are at the bar and drinking and so forth. So because there was one project that we didn't go to work on it, but we began the beginning stage of like the concept, and we had to make sure, like, we had to think about everything. Like the chef, is the kitchen big enough for the chef? It's not just, oh, there's a kitchen and then it's too small and doesn't work and it's not functional, because you need to think about so many things. The fridges, they have massive industrial fridges and cookers, and there needs to be space for all of these things to fit in. So if it doesn't fit, then it's not going to work. It's not going to be a functional kitchen, because when you think about having 100, covers, which are, maybe 100 guests that are coming in, like, you need to be able to be moving in that kitchen. It needs to make sense. You need to have space to store things away and so forth. So interior designers are not just about making something look pretty. We have to think about the functionality of everything, and it needs to make sense, especially in the commercial industry anyway. With the residential, it still also needs to make sense, but it's not as intense as commercial. Yeah.
Some people are more forgiving as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Because there's so many like rules and standards and that you have to meet, especially in the commercial, fire regulations and all those things that, you need to...
It's quite complex.
It's a little bit more, complex than the residential. Residential is a bit more, yes, there are standards, but it's not as much as the, commercial side. So,
which one do you prefer to work on yourself?
Residential, preferably. Yeah, residential. I would say residential in the sense of, because you get to be a bit more like personal. When the client goes back into that space, you see how they enjoy that space. They love it, from what it was before. And then you see the transition. Like that puts a smile on my face, like being able to, see a client like, oh, wow, like this is amazing. Like, this works, and it works for them. Whereas obviously with commercial, it's not personal, is it? It's just like, it's for the people that come in that space and so forth. So, but yeah, I prefer a residential. Okay. Maybe because I like the connection between the client and, the designer, and just going through the process with them and then seeing the end result and seeing how they feel, and then afterwards how they've worked in that space, like how it's worked for them, you know, that it's not just, oh, everything's pretty and nice, but no, actually it works for them.
What are, in your opinion, like those key things that actually make the space work? That there's enough storage, or there's a specific lighting?
I think for me, yes, lighting is one of them. Like, I think sometimes we can get it wrong, like lighting, having a lot of natural light, because obviously I think especially with people's homes, it's a space where they spend a lot of time, right? So it also affects their well-being. So there are certain things that I think a house or a home should have. Good lighting, so good light, not just talking about artificial light, but natural light, you know, ventilation, you know, getting that airflow in. Like, it's not really interior design, but it's more how that space feels for that person. Like, because, you know, there's some places where they don't have enough windows and don't have enough ventilation, but that also affects your well-being. So for example, if you have a bathroom that doesn't have a window and the ventilation is not good, then you can already imagine like what that's going to create. Do you know what I mean? Condensation, mold, not pleasant smell, damp and so forth. So those are really important things, like, I think, that need to, in order to make that person feel comfortable and their well-being to be good, lighting, good ventilation, comfortable. Yeah, you have to be comfortable in that space. And I guess storage is another thing, because we acquire a lot of stuff. So you need space to put things away. Otherwise, everything's kind of just like all over the place. I think everything should have its own space. I'm not a fan of clutter. So for me, everything I hide away. I'm not a minimalist, but I would say like things should have their spaces and not everything needs to be on display.
Yeah.
But there are things that you can put on display and there are things that just need to be put away. So yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Bought a box and it had a fitted kitchen. Bathroom was done, and like it had built-in wardrobe, which I was super grateful for, because like I think like putting the things away, it just needs to get out of space.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what happens in the wardrobe.
It just needs to be
yes,
not in my face. Yeah.
But one thing that I realized, like how kitchen and the functionality and being able to put things away, it's so important, and like the angles that it's at, it's so important, because like now I myself, I have like a super tiny upper cabinet. And things don't fit, and then I like constantly like be like taking out the tiny stool to be able to fetch the plates and all this kind of stuff. And then I'm like, okay, started researching like, okay, what actually goes into those things, how can it be changed? Quite often like I just see like also like trying to find the references of it, how the other spaces look like. But I think there's so much into the looks, but not so much about the functionality. And then you like kind of in practice learn about like the hard way, very hard way,
exactly,
and how it works. And what I realized also, like the worst type of openings and closings are the push ones. The heat, they never close.
Oh, really?
And it's so weird, because in the winter it's good.
Yeah.
And in the summer, they never want to close.
Oh, wow.
So I basically have all my drawers open. I'm like, well, whatever. I don't care anymore.
Yeah. So, maybe it's a mechanism or whatever, however it was made. Yeah. So, yeah.
But that's kind of like, I'm like, oh my God, there's so many small details and you need to think through. And actually, like if the whole home is being designed at the same time, like there's so many
so many things to think about. And that's what sometimes I think people don't realize. There's so many more things to think about. And I think sometimes, like when people ask me, oh, you must be exciting, you know, you're interior designer, you know, it's so fun. It's like, yeah, there are the fun parts, but that kind of comes at the end. In the beginning, there's so many little details that you got to think about, like you said. So even like a kitchen, how well it functions, like the person that's going to be using that space, like it may seem silly. Are they short? Are they tall? The cabinets that you're going to, you know, put all the way up there, like, are they going to be able to reach them? Is it going to be accessible? Does it make sense to have them so high? No. Do you know what I mean? Well, you're not going to be able to use that space because you're never going to be able to get there unless you have a stool
Yeah.
or something that you're using to climb up to go and get it. But then it's impractical because sometimes you just want to move quickly. You know, nowadays we just want everything fast and not having to like, okay, I got to go here, get that, stand on the stool, open the cupboard.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's a bit tedious. So yeah, there
Definitely.
are so many different details to think about, everything. Even like on one project that I was doing, the contractors, that's another thing, working with contractors. Because obviously as designers, we're very specific about how things should look or how things should be or positioned.
Yeah.
And sometimes some contractors, they will just, oh, you need a plug socket? Okay. And they just put it there. And then it doesn't make sense because it's like, it's not centered. It's like off-centered and it looks wrong. So to the eye, it doesn't look good. But for them, it's like, well, I've done my job. You said put a plug socket here, or this, I need a light switch here, but it's the positioning of things. It's because everything has to look good to the eye, and the eye always notices when something is off. So as designers, we kind of see those things. Like it's like we have that eye for detail, so we see those things. Where some people, they miss it and they don't notice little things like that. And sometimes those things like can, I don't know, not for everybody, but as a designer, like you notice these small things, and then when you explain it to someone, they're like, yeah, but it doesn't matter. Like, you know, they're not going to notice. And it's like, well, I notice, so you need to change it, or you need to fix it, or you need to move it. Because there's some things that you just don't need to see, or some things that need to be, you know, straight. I don't know, like it needs to make sense. So yeah, that's one of my pet peeves anyway when it comes to like sometimes working with contractors and so forth, because you have a way of doing something because you know it works and it makes sense. But for them, it's just like, okay, this is the job that you've told me to do and this is what I'm doing and I'm just going to do it and get out. But I'm not going to think about positions or, you know, oh, it should be 10 meters away, or not 10 meters, like 10 centimeters away from the wall, because when you do plug in the socket, it's not going to get in the way of this. They might not think about that. They're just thinking about, you just need a socket there, you know? So when you put all those details on the drawings, like where you should position the plug sockets, oh, it should be up here, or I don't know, up there, whatever. When you put a TV on the wall, you need to put your plug sockets in the center of the wall and so forth. Sometimes people don't understand all those details. It's just like, but why are you putting it there? Why is it 10 centimeters away? Or why could it just be like this? Anyway, it's crazy, but there's a lot of things to think about anyway.
Yeah, but it's all those small details matter indeed. Yeah,
they do. Yeah, like I've been into places where you go into a room and then the light is like off-centered, like it's like over there, and it's like, but why? It doesn't make sense. Like, so you just have to think about everything.
You're thinking through the space, and then there are contractors who are like doing, and then there's probably like the owner who kind of like tries to participate as well.
Yeah,
not getting in the way or anything.
Yeah,
just like kind of it's their space. And how does it all like work in tandem, or who usually runs what, and how the whole final results it's actually coming together?
I would say the designer, I think, is, and it's funny that you're saying this because I literally just finished a project that I was doing that the client, I worked with obviously the client, the contractor, and the client was very involved. And obviously when you're working with a contractor and a client and everyone has their say, you as an interior designer, I think you have, I won't say that you have the final say, because obviously ultimately it's the client that needs to be happy with everything. But sometimes you do need to put the client in their place and be like, okay, no, that's not going to work. Or no, we shouldn't do that because that's not going to be good. Yeah, there has to be like a hierarchy. There has to be an order. Otherwise, everyone's kind of like, oh, but I want it like this. And then the client's like, I want it like that. And then the designer's like, no, well, it works best like this. And then, yeah, I think if you're not listening to the designer, then that's where things kind of go wrong. But yeah, I think, the designer should have the say with majority of things that happens. Because contractors, obviously, they're just going off of what you've given to them, the direction that you've given to them. So obviously you specify the materials, you specify the drawings. So they should literally follow your drawings, even though sometimes they don't. So that's why it's important for us as designers to always come on site and see how everything is progressing, because sometimes you could give them the drawing, they can have everything in front of them, and sometimes if they're a good contractor or bad contractor, whatever, they might not follow what you've done, and then they do something wrong, and then you have to go there and tell them to undo it, and then they're not happy. And then it's kind of like, yeah. So that's why usually, like, especially with this project that I was working on, they were always calling me. I was always on site. I was always there. How do you want us to do this? How do you want us to do that? And it's like, well, I've given it to you on the drawings, but sometimes people don't like to read drawings, or maybe it's too confusing for them, or it's too much for them, and they'll rather just have you there holding things up and telling them like, oh, this is where it should go. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah.
Do you like, what is usually like the average amount of time that you, or frequency that you go on the sites? And
I don't know. It's a lot. I think especially when it comes to the interior stage, so when they start fitting everything out. In the build stage, not really so much, but the fit out stage, when they start putting in the electrics and so forth, and yeah, you have to be there for all of those things, because I've seen some things already. If I could go back, I will be there even more often, because because once you've done something and you can't undo it, then it becomes a problem, because then you always see that problem there. Maybe the client might not notice it, but you always see that problem, like, oh, that's not right. But they probably don't care or whatever. But for you as a designer, that's your work as well. So yeah, I think it's important that you always have to be there. Yeah, especially from the build out stage. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Wow. What is your favorite project that you have been working on?
So it was a while back, actually. It was just a small project. It was a 2-bedroom apartment in Canary Wharf. So that was nice. The good thing about that one was they gave me an idea of what they wanted, and they kind of gave me the free rein to kind of just do whatever. So I added, of course, a bit of my personality in there. I made it like trendy, because obviously it had to be for like, professionals, like, or maybe young professional and so forth, whatever. So for me, that was fun, because it was a nice space as well. The architects who had been there, who had done the main body of the building, done a good job as well. So obviously for me, it was just about going in there and, specifying like the furniture and so forth, and those little accessories and stuff. And that was a really nice project, because obviously you just get to add your own little personal touch, and no one's really over you going, oh, I don't like that, I don't want that, I don't want this, I want that. Yeah. But that one was really nice. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
So it's like a full-on creative freedom.
Yeah. I think that's what I like, really. I just like freedom to create and just to be, do my thing. Yeah.
Whenever you're picking up a project and you're saying one of the stages is to go with the client to do the shopping, because there are so many different materials and so many different things. If it's like for the functionality wise, what are, like, for example, the flooring that you would never suggest to anyone to kind of like get it, or for example, a countertop for the kitchen that is never like would just get destroyed extremely fast and would have to be replaced. Like, what are like some of the maybe like tips in that sense of like actual materials?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, like, from projects that few projects that I've done, it's always best to choose good quality materials. I think things that are long lasting, because ultimately you don't want to keep on spending money on replacing things and so forth. So don't skimp out on, especially things that are going to be there for a long period of time, like flooring, walls, countertops and so forth. Like just using materials that are long lasting as well. Yeah. And of course, like, what, according to, the client's requirements and so forth, and their needs, their style, you want things that are going to stand the test of time. And also depending on who's going to be staying in that space as well, because obviously if you've got pets, if you've got children, some things can get destroyed more quicker, because obviously children don't care about, whether it's, I don't know, whether it costs a certain amount of money or whatever. So you want things that are going to just last long. Like carpet is good in terms of being cozy and so forth, whatever. The only thing with carpets as well is that some of them, especially if you want that luxurious, soft feel, whatever, it holds a lot of dirt. It gets, dirty quickly, especially unless you're choosing something that's like really top quality or whatever. Like, it's just, I think sometimes it can just be a bit tedious to clean and take care of, especially when you got pets, children and so forth. So things like just like wooden floors or easy clean floors, and then maybe just use a rug to bring that softness, to layer up that space to make it feel a bit cozy, rather than maybe just full out carpet. Like there's some developments that I've been to where the whole house is like carpet apart from the kitchen and the bathroom, and I'm just like, how does that work? Because obviously if I don't know, maybe the iron burns the carpet or something, or someone spills something on there, like over time, the stains, like they start to have its, you might get the first stain out, the second one or whatever, but over time it just becomes a bit tedious. Yeah, it's never the same as when you first put it in. So yeah, like I'm always a person for like easy, everything has to be like easy clean maintenance and stuff like that, and just long lasting. So yeah.
Okay. Oh, interesting. I heard it was the first time a few years ago that people put carpets into the bathrooms. And then I was just like,
oh no,
what?
why?
Yeah, like the feeling of stepping out of the shower and the stuff. I'm like, put them
No.
back.
Yeah, put them back. Yeah.
Like, what do you mean it's gonna start molding?
Yeah,
and everything?
exactly.
Just like breathing all of that in. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, I've never heard of that.
Oh my God.
I've never heard of that, but yeah. But there's people that try to be creative, and it is like, that's not gonna work. But okay, if you want to do it, that's fine. You'll find out later. But yeah, I did try to warn you. But yeah.
On the walls, would you recommend to paint them or put a wallpaper or something like?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends. You can have a mixture of either paint or wallpaper. Some people add wallpaper for like feature walls and so forth, just to add a bit of character, a bit of texture on the wall, so it's not just flat or whatever. Yeah, I think you can do either paint or wallpaper. It just depends on, once again, obviously with paint, you can always paint over it again. Paint gets dirty. It just depends on. It just depends on your lifestyle. Once again, if you're a family and so forth, and there's certain materials that you get dirty easier and a bit more maintenance. But with paint, obviously, again, it's just easy to paint over. With wallpaper, if that gets destroyed, you got to rip it off and put it back on again and so forth. So maybe keep the wallpaper to a minimal and use it for like feature walls and so forth, and then maybe paint it everywhere else. But yeah, you can be creative with paint as well. So it doesn't just have to be white walls all the time, or you can,
It feels like in paint there's also so many different factors in it as well.
What, paint?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like I just recently learned about the matte paint and washable paint.
Oh yeah.
Like all those different things.
Yeah.
Just like, but how do you know what and which?
And they're all labeled, so you'll be able to know. Yeah.
And it's like, because I think that there's so little information or like kind of understanding in it. And then I'm like, constantly kind of comes to this, okay, like there's budget as well.
Yeah.
So am I overpaying or am I actually saving in a long run? So I think like there's always this kind of analysis and comparison. Is it worth to kind of put your money in versus what is it actually like, well, you're going to use it once or like a year. So it's kind of like it can be in whatever. It doesn't matter really.
Yeah, it does. So for example, in a lot of our projects, we would always use like a satin or eggshell and so forth, because obviously they're like a soft sheen, so it's not too shiny. Like, you got gloss paint, which is just too much. You don't really want that, so we kind of go in between. So the satin, and some of those as well, like they're washable and so forth, and it makes sense. With matte, if it gets dirty, you'll see it get dirty easily, and you will have to paint over. You can't really usually there are some paints obviously you can wipe and so forth, but sometimes matte doesn't work. So we always do like more like a little soft sheen, which is the satin. Yeah.
But from your experience, like what would you not recommend to be cheap on? And what is like worth actually investing more money in? Because in the long run, it will save you so much headache and so much like redoings and all that kind of.
Exactly. So I think flooring, because obviously once you lay down your flooring, you're not really going to be changing it every couple of years, are you? You just want to keep it for a long time. So flooring with paint, you know, it's not overly expensive anyway. I would say most importantly, flooring, things like your kitchen, your bathroom, your furniture pieces, quality over quantity. Yeah, because I think sometimes people are, oh, that looks very pretty, looks nice, but it doesn't last long. So something that will stand the test of time. It's usually like the more expensive pieces or the older pieces, like especially like vintage or older items that last longer than the newer pieces that are out now, especially like with a lot of trendy, you know, if it's not structured well or well made over, you know, short space of time, it will get dirty, it will get destroyed, it will start to wear out, the cushions start to go flat, the material doesn't last long and so forth. So yeah, I think your key pieces, key things that you're always going to be using all the time. So like, yeah, your flooring, your bathroom, your kitchen, you know, your sofas, your chairs, dining table, like those key items, I think you shouldn't be too cheap on them. Yeah, because you're always going to be buying a new one then if if it gets destroyed, the leg starts wobbling, the leg falls off. Yeah, I've seen it already all before. So yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually like quite fascinating to see the difference between like an IKEA sofa, not shaming IKEA,
Yeah.
not at all.
Yeah.
And like higher end sofa.
Yeah.
Like in 2 years, you see a drastic difference.
You do. Yeah.
It's kind of like I never realized actually that the difference is so big, especially like the spots where you sit on constantly.
Yeah, and it just like starts to sink. Yes. Yeah, exactly. So like I said, with pieces that you're always going to be using consistently, you know, if you buy it cheap, it always looks good when you first buy it and you put it there. It's like, oh wow, this is amazing. But if you're always using it, it doesn't make sense to be too cheap. Rather save up and get something of a good quality. It's like what we do with clothes, right? So if you go to a cheaper shop and your top only costs £5, you know that once you put it in a wash and it's had a few washes, it's going to start fading. Whereas over a good quality top, you know, that costs a little bit more, it's going to last a bit longer. So you're going to save in the long run. So it's the same with households, items and so forth. So yeah.
What do you enjoy the most in collaboration with the clients?
I would say it will be the discovery stage. So the first conversation, the first meet where you meet them, you find out their likes, their dislikes. I think that's the most exciting part because then you're going to go away and then you're going to put something together, you know, a little concept together. And then it's like, okay, did I get it right? Do you know what I mean? So I think it's really important for you to be able to be a good listener, listening to what they want as well. And sometimes you find out fun, quirky stuff about them. And then, you know, that's something that you can add into, you know, into their space later on. So yeah, I always think that that's the fun part, like the beginning stage, because you just, you know, but yeah.
What is the biggest misconcept that you have heard about the interior designers?
I think I mentioned it before in the beginning where I think people just think that interior designers are just about making a space look pretty, you know. Oh, you know, it's so fun because, you know, all you guys do is just pick out nice stuff and then just put it in a space. Yeah. No, there's a lot more details that we have to think about, like spatial awareness, layout. Is it functional? Is it going to last long? Does it work for you, you know, for the person and so forth? So, yeah.
There's such a tight relationship between the client and the designer. What do you think is like one key thing that makes the relationship work?
Trust.
On both ends or most?
I think it has to come from the client. I think they have to trust you to get the job done. They have to trust you with their space, with their money, because if they don't, I feel like they're always going to be second guessing or questioning everything that you're doing. I think once they trust you, you can have a bit more free reign to be more creative and actually do your job as a designer. Do you know what I mean? Whereas if they don't trust you, sometimes I feel like that's when they're very much always wanted to be involved or always over your shoulder. And it's like, if you just let me breathe and just let me get on with it, I will actually show you. Do you know what I mean? But sometimes if they don't trust, they will try to, oh, can we add that? Can we add this? And can we do this? And what do you think? Don't you think we should? And it's like, no, just let, you've chosen me, you've called me to do this. Like, I am a professional, so let me show you, what I mean? Just like a relationship, right?
Yeah.
If you don't trust the person, you're always going to be second guessing.
What is your favorite furniture item and why?
Furniture item, a sofa. Yeah. Why? Because it's a space that I love to be. Like every time when I come back or when I finish doing my work, the first place that I go is my sofa to either sit down or lie down and get cozy and Netflix and chill.
Whoa.
So yeah. So it has to be a comfortable sofa. It has to be a space where I can sink into and just be.
Like one of those like cloud sofas.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So one that I have at home is I have the L shape, the corner sofas, because they're quite big as well. Like, you can spread out on them and you can just relax and unwind. So yeah, that's my favorite piece.
Oh.
Yeah.
Minimalism or maximalism?
Definitely minimalism, but not the plain white box kind of vibe. More minimalism, but with, layers of, details and textures and so forth. Yeah, not just, not the white box. Yeah.
And I've heard over and over again, like a good, well done minimalism is so much more expensive than maximalism as well.
Yeah.
Because everything has to be perfect. You cannot cut any corners.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So,
I love minimalism. Yeah.
If your design style would be a cocktail, which cocktail would it be?
Ooh, I like this question. It will be a passion fruit martini. Very timeless, very elegant. And it's got that little edge, like I said before.
Yeah.
That little kick. Yeah. So, yeah. Passion fruit martini.
A little bit of like that kick.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. What would be the one piece of advice that you would suggest to someone who is styling their own home right now?
I would say for them to think about how things will work in their space as well. Because sometimes we can see something that looks nice in a shop or showroom and we just want to pick it up and place it in our space. And sometimes it doesn't work, it doesn't fit. It's not functional for that space. So yeah, just making sure you're thinking about how that piece of item is going to work in your space, basically. That's one piece of advice. And just make sure that your space, when you're styling it, it is comfortable for you. And it's not just about looking pretty and, we can't mess anything up. Everything has to be like, when we sit on the sofa, we have to be straight and we can't mess up the cushions and so forth. Like, just be comfortable as your space to relax and unwind. So make sure that whatever pieces that you're choosing, you feel comfortable in those, with those pieces as well. So it's not impractical, but it's practical. Yeah. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. Yes. I think especially in the beginning, people try to be extremely careful around the stuff.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like,
and then you can't live.
Yes.
You're just kind of like, oh, don't touch that, don't move this, don't move that. That's in the place. Yeah. Like, just be comfortable, be free. It's your space. It's your sanctuary to relax and unwind. So yeah.
Oh wow. Well, I absolutely love talking to you and learning more about you and also like learning about your journey and everything. So maybe you can also share where people can find your services.
Yes.
And where they can contact you. And
so you can find me on Instagram at Sabrina Yvonne official, or you can find me on my website, sabrinayvonne.com. Yeah.
Perfect. Lovely to speak to you.
Thank you. Lovely speaking with you as well.
Thanks.
Stop.